So here we are again down the canal doing a bit more walking and talking, and this morning I was listening to one of Pete's talks about happiness, and well, many interesting things in there, but you were starting to use terms from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, so
yeah,
Sanskrit words, and I thought it might be good to expand upon that aspect that you were talking about. So
yeah, no problem.
These words that you were using were Sanskrit.
Yes.
And just in case people don't know what that is, just describe what Sanskrit is.
Yeah, it's the liturgical, formal, literary language of ancient India.
Okay.
And most of the Hindu texts and a fair bit of Buddhist texts and Jain texts and myths are written in Sanskrit, and the Vedas of course were Sanskrit as well.
And you mentioned that they're from these are terms that Patanjali used in the Yoga Sutra. So just briefly describe who Patanjali was.
Well, we don't know exactly who he was, but there was supposed to have been a bloke who wrote a very short instruction manual on yoga, by which he means meditation.
Yeah. And what time period?
Again, we're not completely sure, but
more or less.
Yeah, somewhere between 200 years before Christ and 200 years after Christ. So you've got about a 400-year window when it might have been written in that period. Some people have got different ideas there. They make that a bigger period. But I think that's the scholarly opinion at the moment. It's that sort of period. So it's a couple of thousand years old. Okay.
And these terms, you said they were coming. You used them in the Yoga Sutra, which is one of these, or is it the main text that he wrote?
It's the main text, yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
So you were using the term samskara.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And talking about the trauma of the psyche to do with this word. So I'd be quite interested just to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, samskara is a term that Patanjali uses in the Yoga Sutra in a few places to talk about the way the human organism is able to remember the past or record the past in some way, in such a way that it affects the present.
And you were just like almost like scars. You were describing them as. Yeah.
Well, the word samskaras generally gets translated as impression, and the story here about the human being is that we have a part of our being. It consists of mind stuff, or chitta, which is conceived of in this model as a substance. And chitta is impressionable. It's like wax.
Yeah.
You know, you can put a seal in a wax with a signet ring.
Yeah.
Like that. And it's that kind of thing. That's what I meant by an impression.
Yeah.
And the way that human beings record the past, the way we carry the past with us.
Under a picture there.
Yeah. You know, the fact that I'm speaking now in English is dependent on having learned it in the past and having a history of usage of it, which enables me to use it. And the ancients, East and West, were very responsive to that fact and intrigued by it. So the thing about human beings is the extent of our memory.
Yeah.
And the detail of it. And the fact that we can learn. In other words, we can lay down patterns of behaviour and comprehension and feeling. We can lay them down in our psyches and keep them for further use.
Yeah.
And as I say, the ancients were intrigued by this. I think Aristotle had stuff to say about this. He had a notion of impression. But Patanjali certainly was the impression man. I mean, I should make the point that the Buddha was also alert to this and talked about it.
Yeah.
And in modern times, this is ground that's been gone over by psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
Psychoanalysis says that we go through a developmental phase as children, usually within a family, which itself's embedded in a culture, which itself's embedded in a society at large.
Yeah.
And psychoanalysis is just very interested in the way what happens to us when in our formative years, how that affects our well-being, our behaviour, our emotion, our character when we become adults. And psychoanalysis, of course, was concerned with the cases where this goes wrong, where the adult's just not happy,
Yeah.
neurotic.
Yeah.
Psychoanalysis was developed to treat neurosis. Neurosis is basically fixed, repetitive behaviour, which is painful and anxious. It's basically what a neurosis is. And on Freud's view, it was caused by a trauma. Or by the trauma of seeing your dad shag your mother by accident.
Yeah.
It was one of the ideas.
Yeah.
But that somehow certain strongly, I suppose, emotive events in childhood can condition the whole of the rest of your life because you were traumatised by them.
Yeah.
In other words, a scar or a very strong, deep impression has been made on your mind stuff. And Patanjali saw this. He said, samskara is such an impression.
Yeah.
It's like a pattern that's been stamped onto the wax of your mind stuff.
Yeah.
That's now fixed, but keeps operating.
So would you
I mean,
say...
according to Patanjali, we've all got PTSD.
Yeah.
If you take this view,
Yeah.
Even though he uses very few words, Sanskrit, despite a small vocabulary, is capable of a great amount of psychological and philosophical precision.
Yeah.
It's a great language, and it's because the vocabulary is very small, but you can combine the elements
Yeah.
to provide nuances. And samskara is a word like that. The word sam, the syllable sam at the beginning of samskara, you find that a lot in yoga texts, but it means root the same as the English word sum, S-U-M.
Yeah.
And if you make a sum of 2 plus 3 plus 5, that's 10. Yeah, we've summed it, and summing is a way of bringing everything to kind of completion. It has a sense of completion about it. It binds everything together. It draws it into a completeness or a sum.
Yeah.
And skara, well, it's just like our words. The English words got the same Indo-European resonance. Scar.
Yeah.
So a samskara is a complete scar.
Right.
It's a scar that's not kind of going to heal up that quickly.
Yeah.
It's a deep scar.
Yeah.
Or an impression, if you like. But this whole thing is a story about how the way in human beings, given the way that we're made, we're creatures who can very, very easily become victims of the past.
Yeah.
And Patanjali's wanting to say, well, that is a state of unhappiness, if I can come back to that topic.
Yeah.
It's unsatisfactory, certainly.
Yeah.
And it's $1 trillion industry trying to put all this stuff right, or trying to find a way through this fact of our existence.
Yeah.
Yoga, therapy, all kinds of culty stuff, mainstream medicine, agony aunts, self-help books, YouTube videos on how to bliss out on this, that and the other.
But
It's a fucking business.
The thing I really picked up from you listening to your talk before was that you mentioned there was a way out.
Yeah.
Right? And then you said that it's possible to create a positive trauma that would perhaps not completely obliterate the other traumas, but override them, because it would be much bigger.
Yeah, this is a fascinating idea, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like that idea.
Yeah,
so.
it's Patanjali's idea, if you read him very closely. And I'm saying that last little qualification there because not a lot of the commentators have really expanded on this, apart from one guy who tried to understand Patanjali in the light of psychoanalysis, and really he was translating terminology across, and it was a good try, but mostly they don't get onto this.
Yeah.
So it's a bit controversial what I'm saying. But it's
good though. The reason why it resonated with me with what you were saying is because I've actually experienced it.
Yeah. Well,
so I thought, oh yeah, I recognise that.
Yeah. Well, Well, great. That's great. More confirmation. For me, it's something that I think I understand through the practice.
Yeah.
I've experienced it and thought, yeah, he's talking about that.
Yeah.
And what it is, how it goes is, this is in the context of the kind of meditation where you focus on something. Yeah, so that you have this kind of subtle merging between you and the thing that you're contemplating. Yeah.
The subtle merging between the thing that you and the thing that you're contemplating.
Yeah, technical terms, subject-object become merged. Yeah, for technical things, subject-object are merged.
Yeah.
And that, that style of meditation, it's like the Ashtanga. It's like fucking. Yeah.
Lots of bikes around today.
Yeah. 100 miles. Yeah. Don't go too fast. You fall in the cut.
Right. Subject, object, merging.
Yeah. It's that style of meditation. It might be you've got a pain in your knee and you focus on it until you are it, and then something happens.
So it's like the meditations that we do, that anyone who comes to our classes will recognise, where we just do very simply just becoming the breath. Yeah, focusing on the breathing during meditation, just becoming the breath. Yeah, well, so that's what you mean.
Yeah,
it's merging. So there's no distinction between the subject-object anymore.
Yeah, that's it. That in the context of Patanjali's exposition of that style of meditation, which is called samyama, technically. Which again, it's got that word sam, which means full, complete. Yama, discipline. It's just simply discipline. So it's the complete discipline. According to Patanjali, samyama.
Yeah.
It's focusing on an object till you can hold it steadily without effort, until you vanishes and it vanishes into and the whole thing becomes a single entity.
This is one of Patanjali's terms, is it? Samyama.
Yeah. He talks about it a lot. Yeah. For him. Yeah. All right. Yeah, for him, he talks about it a real lot. And this use of the term samskaras comes in when he's discussing samyama. Now, what he does with samyama is he tries to break it down into types.
Yeah.
And he said there's, again, technical names. I'll say them, but you can forget them because it won't matter. But what is it? Savitaka, Nivitaka.
Oh yeah.
Savichara, Nivichara.
Yeah.
So they go down 1, 2, 3, 4 in the order I just gave them. And what they are is focusing on a gross object. In other words, a brick or a plant.
Yeah.
Or maybe the breath even,
Yeah.
So it's focusing on a gross object, whilst being aware of the name of that object and the form of that object. Yeah. So I'm meditating on the bridge, and I know it's called a bridge. Yeah, and that's all in the picture. And then he's got meditating on the gross object without name and form. So that's keeping the bridge in my consciousness. But I'm no longer aware it's a bridge. Names and forms have gone into abeyance. It's I don't know what it is. It's just kind of raw sensory data or something.
Yeah.
And then the third one is focusing on a subtle object. A subtle object, not a gross object, a subtle object.
Yeah.
With name and form. And then a subtle object without name and form.
So what would you say, give an example of a subtle object?
I don't know, maybe the breath when it's very, very settled. Maybe
perhaps like
something.
Energetic sensation?
Energetic sensation, something imagined. I would say that the most subtle object is the flow of life itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. He then kind of recommends a kind of a leap to no object. The subject is its own object. So there's no seed to the emergence. It's just since there's no object, it merges with nothing and everything. So, and what he says about this last one is that it's so traumatic it causes a samskara in your mind stuff.
Describe why that would be traumatic. I mean, I know it is because I've experienced
it,
but can you say...
Loss of ego.
Right.
It doesn't have to be traumatic or spectacular, but it usually fucking is.
Yeah.
You know.
Because of the loss of ego at that point.
You stand up off your cushion and suddenly you're tripping your tits off, basically, you know. You're in the sky, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And your body's going, what the fuck, and shaking and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Can you, I mean, it may not be possible, but why does that happen?
Why does it happen?
Well, why do you have the trauma when you have that experience? Might not be a possible.
He's just there's no why. It's just this is what things do.
Yeah.
If the human being is conceived of as in its mental aspect composed of a substance called mind stuff. Yeah, and that mind stuff is able to register the past. It's able to take impressions. And that's a part of the organic being of a human being, is its mind stuff is impressionable. In other words, it can retain the past for future use, future misuse, future pain, future pleasure. You know, the thing we've got to register here, you really have to kind of get this, you know, is that a modern understanding of a human being is based on something like neuroscience. Is that we can be considered as processors of time. You know, we have memory, we've got storage, processing, and future action based on storage and processing. You know, you can consider the human being like that and get a lot out of it. It's not the whole story, but you can get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But Patanjali recognised exactly the same thing. You know, he thought this is the way to think about human beings. This is the way to teach people meditation.
Yeah. So
is to impress on them that they've got this time aspect to their being.
So
they are traumatised. They were traumatised.
So we're talking about this positive trauma of resolving the subject-object distinction within that meditation.
Yeah.
And I was I was just trying to just to sort of get at
he describes it as a fire.
Why that is a trauma? I mean, obviously
it just is.
Yeah, no.
It just is. It just is.
There's no way to really describe why it is.
There's no why other than to say this is how.
Yeah.
This is what human beings are like. They're time processors, and this is what very strong experiences do to them.
Yeah.
Samyama can lead to some very strong experiences, especially when the object of the meditation is the subject itself, that there is no object. That sets you on fire. According to Patanjali, he says it sets you on fire.
Yes.
And the fire is the fire that traumatises you, it burns you.
Yeah.
You know, and then the trauma of being burned like that has this effect of overriding all your previous traumas. You no longer become a potential victim of your past.
Yeah.
Of the impressions of the past that you store.
Yeah.
Because you've had this big one, which is wholly positive. Because what it says to you is, it does actually say something to you. It says all his glory.
Yeah.
And you go, fuck. you know, and you fall over and.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
you fall over and it's all kind of like snot and tears, you know.
Yeah, I know that one as well.
So,
yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. I mean, I don't think he's right. I know he's right.
Yeah.
I know he's right. And I'm glad that Western culture coming up through fucking, I don't know, Kant, Nietzsche, Freud, and all the effect that had through the 20th century on thinking people's understanding of what it is to be human.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that resonates for me with everything I got out of Patanjali.
Yeah.
I'm glad, you know. It's sort of
well,
like
it's all in the mixing bowl, isn't it?
It come in from a different angle. It swooped round like that,
yeah.
but it come to this place, you know,
yeah.
human being in time, and we meditate. It's actually really natural to meditate.
Yeah.
It's not like some. You can make as much fuss as you like about it, but it is kind of pretty natural.
Yeah. So I think the how I would describe it, this the trauma of this this kind of meditation, this way you become, it sets you on fire.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the ego. For me,
that's what samadhi is, by the way. It's the culmination of samadhi is the third part of samyama. First
right.
part's fixing the mind.
Yeah.
Second part's steadiness. Third part is mergence, subject and object merging. Third part. It's called samadhi, but there are lots of different types of samadhi depending on the object.
Oh.
And in fact, there are some. You know, the one that sets you on fire is the one with no object.
Yeah.
The object's so subtle there isn't one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say a bit more about that,
yeah.
just going back to our,
right.
you know, so I like to mix into these things our lived experience and
of course.
You know, we just don't want to say, oh, it's like this. This is
yeah.
in my experience of that one, which I've had quite a few times.
Yeah.
It's you know, the trauma of having the ego completely sort of blown away.
Yeah.
But it's like everything that you thought you were. Yeah. Everything that you believed about yourself
yeah.
and about the world,
yeah.
all just dissolves into nothing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
In fact, all the you know, this is I think maybe why all the other scars and traumas will be overridden by this one.
Yeah.
Is because you almost like it's like they just actually realise that they sort of didn't exist really.
Yeah.
You know, in a
yeah.
sense.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Or at least they don't
yeah.
exist now in the present. You know, they
yeah.
are just
yeah.
they're just held on to.
Yeah.
It's a bit crude to describe it that way.
No, I know what you mean. What you say. I mean, there's an insight there. You know that none of this shit matters, and it is actually dead and gone. It's the trace that's yeah. jerking me about.
That's it.
Not the thing itself. But
no, we wouldn't ever want to suggest that, you know, people's yeah. traumatic experiences of the past are not important. We're not saying that.
No, you don't want to downplay the people's lived experience.
No.
You know? But you can have the lived experience that alters your perspective on the things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
They're still going to leave that kind of scar tissue. You know, to be human is to be scarred. You will die scarred, I promise you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, it's not. This is not to downplay that stuff. It's actually to say, well, this is all very. It's really, really interesting, and this is a human life. You know.
Yeah.
You can make heavy weather of it if you like, or you can have a load of fun, bliss, and joy between now and going in your box. You know.
Yeah. But that expansive moment,
yes.
the being set on fire moment.
Yes.
And you were just describing there about a few different ways that you can have a go at getting to that. Although you would have to be a little bit mad to want it, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like you ready to drop everything about yourself.
You know, there's an appetite for the extreme, isn't there?
Yeah.
Not everybody has it in equal measure. Some people have it to the point that they don't last very long. Some have got hardly any of it, and they kind of they're quite content to watch Coronation Street till they drop.
Yeah.
You know.
Can you tell me about
I think
your moment of being set on fire when?
Which one?
Or like maybe the first time you had the positive trauma, if I would put it that way, and how things changed for you, what it did for you, how it altered your life.
I've it's kind of had a lot of experiences of that type, you know, and they're dramatic. But you should also remember there are experiences that have got no drama in them whatsoever.
Yeah.
And there's some experiences that are not even experiences. You're kind of selling them short when you say the word experience.
Oh yeah.
But they're utterly normal.
Yeah.
And these are enlightenment experiences, but there's no fireworks. These kind of things can get a bit fireworksy.
Yeah.
Because and especially when they go into like the psychoanalytic territory. You know, when possibly you might start resonating, such as your meditation, that you might start resonating with pre-birth states or the birth trauma.
Yeah.
Being suffocated on the way out.
Yeah.
Suddenly bursting into the light. I've had all of them bloody things, you know. Yeah. But I do remember one kind of event like that, in which I was just kind of climbing into bed, and suddenly I felt as though I was going through a fiery door.
Oh yeah.
You imagine a door, you know, and the door jam's on fire, and it's
Yeah.
really burning furiously.
Yeah.
And to get to the bed, I had to step through this.
Yeah.
And I felt as though I was kind of turned inside out when I went through this thing. And upside down, and everything seemed to be like switched the other way around to see what that was like. It's just really, and your giblets are on the outside. It's totally peculiar.
Wow.
Thought I better lie down, lying in the bed, shaking like a fucking leaf.
Yeah.
And then thought, well, the only thing I can do is relax.
Yeah.
You've got to go with it and relax. So a corpse posture style thing there, but in the bed, and then and that kind of calmed down all this shaking, and then it was this kind of, I think it was like a kind of a regress, you know.
Yeah.
Into some kind of inter-uterine oceanic state.
Yeah.
It's in the water in the fetal position.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely as warm and cuddly as anything could be. And there is no incentive to come out. In fact, there's nobody to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nobody to come out, and then there's this kind of little stray thought saying, "You got to go and do some stuff."
Yeah.
Go back.
Up now.
Go back.
Yeah.
Somebody might need help.
Yeah.
Go back. I don't know, just some kind of altruistic bullshit, really, I suppose. But stuff like that occurs in this order. As I say, it gets psychoanalytic. You know, you can take a route that just takes it for granted that we're creatures of time, and is not judgmental about the concrete results in character, in the human character of the past playing through them. It's just quite happy to this is like phenomenology, and that's in Patanjali as well. Yeah. Which is whereby you're not worrying about how you got here. Psychoanalysis tends to worry. It tends to think if you understand how you got here, being here won't be so shit.
Right.
And actually, it's kind of a bit daft, you know. And there's an approach like the R.D. Laing approach, which says, well, you're sitting in the cell in the corner, rocking, wondering how you got here. But all the time the door of the cell is open, you can stand up and walk out.
Yeah. And
there's an approach whereby you just take your freedom, just take it, and then play that out, you know. And it's a totally different approach from this kind of slightly more disciplined focusing in on concrete shit. You know, on items of lived experience in a bit of a self-conscious way. There's a freer and more direct way than that. But it's kind of less psychoanalytic. But in order to be less psychoanalytic, you have to think of the past just as a given. You have to think of your human character and personality as it has been formed by your DNA in interaction with your history, who your parents were, how they raised you, what type of schooling you had, whether you were whether you were abused, whether you were hit, whether you were treated kindly, whether you were celebrated, etc., etc. All these things laying down patterns. You know. Actually, it's quite fun, I think, the labyrinths.
Yeah. Well, I just thought I might mention a few things about some of the positive traumas I've had, or one of them in particular.
Yeah, good.
And I think it's important to mention that a lot of people think that these fiery yoga experiences, where you have these big shifts, as I call them,
big shifts,
tend to happen when you are doing yoga, or when you are doing your corpse posture, but nearly always where it's happened to me, just randomly.
Yeah.
Once you start, once you start doing yoga,
I forget to mention that.
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen anytime, you know, or it can not happen. It can be really frustrating because you can be thinking, because once you get a bit of a handle on it, you can feel a shift coming on, and
I'm about to have a turn.
Yeah. But you know,
Yeah.
it's almost like you can smell it in the air, and the movement of the air around you.
Yeah,
I've had that.
It's really palpable, isn't it?
I felt it coming for weeks.
It's palpable.
Something's going to pop here or change. And
I mean, the other thing to say about these things is they can be incredibly vivid, can't they?
Yeah. I mean,
more vivid than so-called real life.
Yeah.
They can be incredibly vivid, these events.
Because I remember
they should be vivid.
The Avion Centre.
Yeah.
It's the Avion Centre, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've probably been doing yoga every day for maybe about a year before that point, before anything really happened in that way.
You were at it every day though, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, yeah. And I was just standing there where I was with you. I think you'd gone to the cash point or something, and I just felt this shift in the air. And there I was, just standing in Wick Marines, and there was like, oh, it was like something was coming, and it was pretty big. And over about a week, it just built up and built up, and I had no experience of this kind before.
Yeah.
So I wasn't frightened or anything. It was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then now this one did actually happen whilst I was doing yoga. But sometimes, like you described, you know, you can just be climbing into bed, and poof, bang, here it comes. You know, you can't predict it, and this is a big thing for yoga teachers to know, and yoga practitioners.
Indeed.
Because you can put this time aside, thinking, oh well, I'm really busy at the moment, but I'll go off on my own in a week, in April or whatever, and I'll go and really explore this and I've done that before. And I've gone to the Lake District on my own thinking, wow, I'm finally going to have some time to really get into this, and nothing's happened at all. Doesn't matter what I did. It's just, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time. It's just the way it is. So it can, you know, you could be...
If you enjoy the fact that nothing's happening, just dig that, because it's got a lot going for it. Hasn't it?
But when you're busy and you've just got a week to attain enlightenment in August, you know, it's a bit like,
it's also like, email to universe. Dear universe, I will be out tomorrow between 4 and 6. I have to have my pedicure. So please don't visit then. I'll be in touch. So you know, as though the kind of the entire iPad scheduling, fucking diary mentality.
That
modern life imposes on us.
You know, you come to your yoga class on Tuesday night from 7 till 9, and it's like the universe isn't going to say, okay, all right, we'll just pop a bit of enlightenment in then. I mean, basically what you're saying there is all this stuff is a lot more fun if you don't have to go to work. you ain't got a clock on. But that for most people then opens up the problem of, well,
I need some money. How am I going to get in here?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but I think this is an important thing for practitioners to know, because otherwise, if you always think that it's only going to happen when you're doing the yoga, and something really big starts happening at work, or in the supermarket, you're thinking, shit, what's this? I better book myself into hospital and just get medicated because I'm ill, there's something wrong with me. And there's not, it just comes when it comes.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, back to my story.
Yeah.
So I was in the Avion Centre, and I literally felt it in the wind. It was like as the wind touched my skin, there was a light breeze that touched my skin. It has had this, it sort of shifted things inside my body. It was like very indescribable, so I won't try. But then, about a week later, I was doing yoga with you, and there was a mattress leaning up against the wall. It was an old mattress with like a really ugly pattern of orange and brown flowers.
Yeah.
And okay.
I don't recall it, but there you go.
This was about nearly 20 years ago now. So it was one of my first experiences like that. And I got on the mat, it's normal, we can do this, do that, and suddenly this thing that was in the wind, I could feel it coming closer and closer to me, whatever it was.
The thing in the wind.
The thing in the wind, but it wasn't something outside of myself. I knew it wasn't like a presence or a ghost or anything that wasn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it felt like a presence at that time, because I hadn't really become it at that time, so it felt like something that wasn't me. But at the same time, I still wasn't scared.
Yeah, it's other. It can come as other. It presents itself as another.
Yeah. And it was coming closer and closer to me, and I was on the mat, and I could feel it coming closer and closer to me until it came right up to my skin.
Yeah.
Touched my skin, and at that point I think I just fell onto the mat, and then it went through my skin and went right into my body, and it was so painful. We're talking trauma here, fucking hell. It's like I was just like sobbing.
That's wild stuff, man.
And
very wild.
Just like hanging onto the yoga mat and clinging to the floor and sobbing. And then I could hear the presence, whatever it was, in my own voice as I sobbed. Like, But again, I wasn't rationalising it as, oh, here's an outside presence that has invaded me.
No.
It was like...
It probably takes hindsight to be able to say that.
But I wasn't, again, because that would have been terrifying if that had been how I was perceiving it, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like,
what were you
just like the realisation, I suppose, that, well, I was the universe.
Yeah.
Just to say something really cliche there, but still true, I think. And then when it became my voice and I became it, the sobbing stopped, and I looked up, and honest to God, I saw the universe in that pattern on the mattress.
Yeah.
I looked at the flowers, and my mouth was just hanging open in shock and awe at these orange and brown flowers on the mattress.
Yeah.
It was like, God.
On the scabby mattress.
That's right, with the scabby, crappy mattress. There it was. It was like the universe is now in the mattress.
Yeah.
And I was so stunned. That's the word. Stunned and traumatised to be just like with this massive shift of being.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could just say.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I remember going downstairs, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with Rachel, and I was looking at the wooden table and the grain and the wood and the knots, and I was pointing at the table and going, Rachel, it's in the table. Look, it's in the table. I'm sure she knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, she might well have done.
But that was it. It was everywhere then from that point.
Yeah.
It was inside and outside, in my voice, in my eyes, in the toilet bowl,
Yeah.
in the mattress.
Aye.
So when you was mentioning positive traumas in your talk that I was listening to, that all flashed past.
Yeah.
And I've had a few of those sort of things. But that was, and perhaps I was able not to be frightened of it because of the experiences I'd had before then, and because
Yeah.
of the talks that we'd had. So I sort of had a bit of a handle on what it was before it happened.
Well, if you're gonna go in this direction in your life, probably not a bad idea just to strengthen up a bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even down to the level of well, up to the level of the body being just functional as best as best you can get it without getting obsessive.
Yeah.
I think that just gives you a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
When stuff like of the kind you've just described kicks off.
But also
it's
it
can be
less painful because it's like although because I've been doing quite intense physical yoga for like every day for about a year, so I do feel that it kind of cleaned me out.
Yeah.
So that when all this stuff rode through, there weren't like so many blockages.
Yeah. So it's possible for you to allow it.
Yeah.
You could allow it. You could not take steps to try and put a lid on it.
No. I mean,
you'd
honest,
learn that. If you'd learn it, you'd learn that, hadn't you?
I probably wouldn't have the slightest clue how to stop it, even if I wanted to. But
I know, but that doesn't stop people trying, and it's painful.
Yeah,
that really is painful. Still, you learn. You learn.
Yeah. But after I was listening to your talk, I suddenly felt inspired to go and drop into that space and just have a few more traumas. It's kind of like, yeah, trauma, let's go.
Yeah, I said people have an appetite for extremity.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. A full-on human being is going to invite that at least once or twice in their lives,
That space where you can like have the traumas, as it were.
Yeah.
It's like I know how to get there if I want to now.
Yeah. Well, you become a kind of a weird sort of expert or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There's just this little.
Or a professional.
Kink in your focus.
Yeah. In the way my dad was a professional drinker,
Yeah.
John Harris described him as he said, "Oh, a professional." In this thing, it's gonna attract some people who are just fiddling with it all the time.
Yeah, but that's going back to what we were talking about the human beings being curious monkeys. And
yeah, that's
your
right.
talk did make me think,
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
I could go into that space and traumatise myself this way and traumatise myself that way. I thought, oh yeah, that could be really interesting. There's a bit of shit in this corner I haven't kind of traumatised out of existence yet. Let's go and have a look at that.
I mean, Patanjali might have been sort of hyperbolic in that Indian way. By saying it clears all the mess up in one go. It's like it's the 1 second suck vacuum cleaner that removes every mote of dust from your house.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the Yoga Sutra is an advert for his shtick. Yeah,
right, yeah.
It's an advert for his shtick. He's gonna say to you, well, this will override all the others. The reality is that you can't undo your past. It's gone. There's no way back into the thing to change the circumstance. Every event that's made you as you are now can't be undone.
Yeah.
Can't be undone. You can celebrate and enjoy that fact, or you can give yourself a really fucking hard time trying to undo stuff, trying to unpick stuff. Yeah. It's the real wriggle room with all this is in the orientation to what's going on. It's in your orientation to what's happening to you.
So when you mean that, like, well, because obviously with my experience I could have been terrified, but my orientation wasn't to be.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you knew you'd meet questionable things, and you decided you were going to be brave about it. Yeah. I mean that's. I think that's a prerequisite. Funnily enough. Are you brave? And if I say yes, well, are you reckless?
I think part of why I was brave about that was because I had experiences before, let's just say, through a chemical nature.
Yeah.
That had been sort of similar.
Yeah.
So when I got to that point, I was recognising this space in myself, and it was like, oh, okay. But many people who experience these things through a chemical nature do shit themselves as well, don't they? And I never did.
They do. And rightly so in some instances, I'm sure. I mean, those experiences can be terrifying.
Yeah.
They can be glorious as also.
Maybe one of my weird quirks is just a bit particular to me, is that my self-identity is very fluid anyway.
Yeah.
So when it does dissolve, I'm not that bothered.
Yeah. You don't have to have a struggle about it because it's not so kind of tightly knit. It's not like a great fortress, is it?
No.
It's like a little encampment.
Because I realised a very long time ago, like probably at least 5 years before I met you, we started talking about this sort of stuff. I was already questioning that.
You were experimenting with it, weren't you?
Yeah. And
through art as well.
Yeah, a lot through art, and realising that the whole, self-identity thing was just like quite an illusion anyway, and so many people were completely locked and imprisoned by their self-identity.
Yeah.
And I could see it, and once you see through that, you can't carry on holding on to.
No,
it really can.
There's no motive to expend all that energy, is there?
No.
Where are we? Oh yeah, I'm hungry.
So often when we get to this point, we anticipate questions that people might have about what we've just been talking about, and often we
had a discussion. I would say I would want to put a title on it. Samskaras and happiness. Yes, that'll be the title for that first bit.
Yeah.
Samskaras and happiness.
Questions. We're just the anticipating the questions that people would.
Okay, good thinking.
And often when we get to this point in the walk and we're talking about that, we often think that people would say, oh, that sounds great, now how do we do it? But in this talk, a lot of it has sort of been about the how, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, Patanjali, just to go back to him, the bugger, did say no how, there is no how.
Yeah.
He implied that, and then he invited you to just jump in. There is no how. That's it. But he does kind of take pity on people. Now whether he should have done this or not's another question, but he does take pity on people and say, well, okay, you can't sort that out. That's too direct. It's too elusive because there's no method. So we'll try this. This is something you can actually do. Ishvara Pranidhana is what he comes up with. Well, surrender to God, or go with the flow, and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you'll contact. You will reach samadhi, enjoy samadhi,
So when
through these means, you know, there's either a direct jumping into samadhi, or there's this devotion thing, Ishvara Pranidhana thing. That's what he says. Then a bit, but the second one is a bit more of a, he's took pity on you, he's give you something to get a grip on. Because you can't get a grip on anything in the first bit.
Yeah.
And it works that way. It works by refusing you a gripping point. The second one gives you a gripping point.
Stops you crystallising around a particular idea, and then because once you've done that, then you become static and you're not flowing anymore.
Well, the second one promises samadhi by the alternative approach, if I can use a word like that, of Ishvara Pranidhana, usually translated surrender to God. So people start chanting and stuff.
To God, what did he actually mean?
Well, he actually meant. The best translation I can give to it is going with the flow. That's what he actually meant.
Right.
So if you go with the flow, you will enjoy samadhi, and that samadhi will have a knowledge content. You'll feel as though you know everything, because what you're doing is you're plugging into Ishvara, who is the guru of even the ancient gurus. He's the one who actually discovered the stuff out of the Dharmakaya and gave it to humanity, Ishvara. Yeah, Ishvara lives inside you. You have access to it. Here is a method of samadhi. Throw yourself into Ishvara, which is your internal great guru, you know, your archetype of wisdom that you carry inside you. Throw yourself into that. And discover how much you know. Because Ishvara contains the seeds of omniscience. It's the potentiality of knowing everything. It's a kind of intelligence. Ishvara I sometimes translate as the intelligence of the universe. And this yogic method, Patanjali's second yogic method, is one of availing yourself of the intelligence of the universe. And the intelligence of the universe is inscribed in flow. Everything flows. So that's the second one. But the third one is even more of a doing, and that's the one we've just talked about, samyama. Now that actually is a method in it. It's a doing.
Right.
It's very light. It's got a very light touch. You know, you focus on an object, you get steady on it, you merge with it. Might be the breath. Might be some kind of light that you can perceive. Might be something you visualise, the god or a goddess or a mantra or a symbol or whatever. Yeah. It might be the sensations in your spine. It might be a candle flame, it might be a bridge, it might be a duck, it might be a fag end.
Might be a mattress.
So, it might be a mattress. And then you go into it. And that going into it's the samadhi. And you know, it's like a training. You start with gross objects, candle flame, go to subtle objects, the light at the top of the head, and then go for subtle objects, and you don't even know what the name of them is. It's like bracket language, and associations have been bracketed out, so you get a kind of a naked seeing of the type described by Aldous Huxley. Istigkeit.
Describe naked seeing.
Istigkeit. It's when you're looking at this scene, but your memory isn't flooding in. It's not triggering all the associations of the names of the objects and any past experience you might have of this place. It just brackets it out, so everything's just like sparkling is, like a Van Gogh painting of some shoes.
I like that term. The sparkling is.
So he works with that, and then he finally says to you, now, okay, you got that. Let's abandon the object. Let the subject be its own object. Let's just abandon the object. Of course, this is right where he comes in at the beginning. Just abandon the object. See what happens. Well, we've talked a little bit about what happens when you kind of fiddle around with these vowels in your mind stuff. And in your being.
What do you mean when you say mind stuff?
Chitta, mind stuff. I mean, this is just Patanjali's the conception that was current in his day of mind that he used. And their idea was that mind is a substance.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about that at the beginning.
It's a substance. It's a very refined substance. It's lighter than air. perhaps, I don't know, but it can take impressions.
Yeah.
And it's impressionability that makes it functional in a human life. And Patanjali has stuff to say about that, you know?
Yeah. Well, perhaps we can mention that another time, because now at the end of our walk we've come to the last lock. Somebody's coming through.
So I don't know where that leads. That feels like a little kind of bit inconclusive, I suppose. But
would you like to add any conclusions at the end of that?
I think that what we've done, we've sketched a little map of some territory.
Quite loud over there, with the water and everything.
We've sketched a little map of some territory.
Yeah.
That relates happiness, that lovely simple thing, to to yoga as a being state and as a practice.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that relationship, taking Patanjali to be the yoga authority that we want to bounce off.
Yeah.
Not appealing to him, we're just bouncing off him.
Yeah.
And he very gracefully left that for us, something to bounce off, you know. So, and that's our method, has been to bounce off that.
Yeah.
In the light of our own experience and our own biographies, and hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think that the relationship between yoga and happiness is a very strong one for me, certainly. I mean, all the things which are uncomfortable, painful, and feelings of stuckness, which are uncomfortable, I can release and allow things to start flowing again, so that's going with the flow. And it's like that yoga is like the thing for me, and art, but really yoga being the main one, which has enabled me to understand the flow and being able to allow myself to go with the flow. And to me, that is a happy state. Not just a happy state, but also a state of bliss and contentment as well. You know, not just happiness, but very positive on all fronts, really.
We like it.
We
like it.
There's lots of barges going past now, so I think that's you know, there's plenty of interesting things in there. Get in touch if you've got any questions.